We're back with more dating nightmares, and you might stay single after this.
This is the worst date I've ever been on in San Francisco. Hi, my name is Devin, and welcome to my very chaotic dating life. It wasn't anything that he did, it was everything that he said. Within the first 10 minutes of us sitting down, he said, "Oh, you don't have to wear a skirt for me." First of all, I didn't. But then he caresses my thigh and says, "Someone's a bad girl for not shaving." Ew. He asks the classic question of when my last relationship was, and then goes on to say that he's in full contact with his ex. Red flag. Then he starts going on a rant about how girls dress so slutty and how their actions reflect it. Okay. But then has the audacity to ask me if I've ever had a threesome. Also, throughout the entire date, he would not shut up about how much older he was. Like, chill, dude, you're 4 years older than me. Also, that's just such a weird thing to comment on. Then the cherry to top off the night was him saying, and I quote, "Your confidence borders on cockiness." At this point, I was done. I snuck away to the bathrooms and one of the bartenders found me. He asked me if I was okay and said that this guy was a total creep. The bartender literally told me to stay back. And if this date couldn't get any worse, this guy asked for a ride home. I'm pretty sure I laughed in his face and said no. And for the rest of the night, I got drunk with the bartenders. I nicknamed this guy the walking red flag for obvious reasons. Luckily, he never reached out to me again. Good riddance.
You lasted longer than I would, let me tell you. I just don't even think my patience level would allow me to go on dates nowadays. I don't think it would.
Story time of the worst first date that I've ever been on. It was so bad that I had to tell him to leave and get the train home because I was scared of him. This happened like over 3 years ago. This was during a period of my life where I was a little bit depresso. I've been talking to this guy on Tinder for like a good few months, and one day he was like, "Do you want to meet in person? You know, I'll get the train to Lincoln." He was from Nottingham. He seemed very normal over text and everything, so I was like, "Do you know what? I'm free, let's do it." First red flag that I kind of ignored. I shouldn't have done this, but he asked if he could stay over at my house, which is a bit weird of an ask, the first time that you like gonna meet someone.
Bit weird. A stranger saying, "Can I sleep in your home?" Are you fuckery doodled? What do you mean?
Like, what if we don't gel? Like, what if we hate each other? You know, that kind of thing. But because I was just a massive people pleaser, I was like, yeah, cool, whatever, that's fine. Like I said, he seemed very, very normal over text, nice guy and everything.
You said yes? He seemed normal. You know who also seemed normal? Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy. Oh my God, girl.
Anyway, the day comes, and I meet him at the train station to pick him up. This man, he has no luggage with him. He has no bag, nothing for an overnight stay. I was like, sorry, what? Like, I'm talking about this man did not even have a toothbrush with him.
Well, no, he's not gonna need a toothbrush when he literally kills you and flees the country.
Like, what was he gonna do? Like, was he gonna brush his teeth? Was he planning on using mine? Like, you know, what the hell? We decided to go out for some lunch. We go to Slug and Lettuce. And I notice on his hand, he's got like a cast. Not like a cast, but he's got like one of those compression things on his hand because he's obviously like sprained or broken his hand or whatever. Obviously I was like, you know, what's that about? And then he proceeds to tell me that he got into a fight with someone and hurt his hand. Red flag number 2. As we are walking down the high street to get to our lunch destination, this man starts just randomly saying that he's going to fight all these people in the street. Literally other guys that are just walking along the high street. He's there like, oh my God, he's looked at me funny, like, I'm gonna go fight him. Like, what? Like, he was displaying very aggressive behaviour, and I don't know why. Like, nobody was doing anything to provoke him. Literally all this man would talk about on our little lunch date was just how he likes fighting people. And I was like, I don't feel very safe right now. At this point, the alarm bells in my brain were literally working overtime. They were going off. I didn't want to bring this man back to my house because I just didn't want to. Like, I had really bad feeling. Again, I was a massive people pleaser. I didn't really know what to do. This was the first time this really happened to me. So we ended up just going on like a really long walk around the area, and we sit on this little park bench, and I just do not want to talk to him. The conversation is kind of going stagnant, like it's not really the vibe. I remember I was looking straight on at the river and I could see this man sat next to me. In my peripheral vision, I could see him staring at me. It's just really weird, like very, very odd. He was just sat there staring at me, not saying anything. I have never wanted to leave a date. Leave a date so fast.
Yeah, remember when, oh, he seemed normal. Anyone can appear normal over text, over phone call, even in person on the first few dates, they can seem normal. Guys, You don't let people who you don't know go to your freaking house. Stay over. That like gave me anxiety thinking that you were going to allow that.
So I've been thinking a lot about this date that I heard recently. So this woman was going on this first date with this guy that she'd never met. Like they had really good chemistry on Tinder or whatever. They were getting along really well, so they agreed to meet up. So she's like, okay, like you can just meet me at my place and we'll go out on this date. Side note, never have them come to your house or you go to their house. Like you don't know this person, right?
Yeah.
The day of the date comes and he arrives at her house and right away she's like, something's off, like something's a little weird. He looks just like green, like sweaty, you know, like just not well.
Sweaty.
And he does tell her, he's like, yeah, you know, I've been feeling a little bit under the weather, but like I don't think I'm really sick, and I really like you and I just like want to push through this, right? And so she's like, okay, you know, just like let me know because like we can just reschedule. Like we don't have to go on this date. Like if you're really not feeling well, just go home. Like that's fine. But like if you feel okay, then like okay, I'm gonna go get ready and you just chill here on the couch. I'll get you a drink or whatever. So she gets back from getting ready and she's ready to go. And he is on the couch, just like collapsed, sweating, like just not looking good at all. And he confesses to her that like, actually I'm in a lot of pain. Like I'm not sure what's going on, but like I really, really don't feel well. And she's a nursing student. So she feels him. She's like, you seem like you have a fever, like you're clammy. Let's take you to the emergency room. Like I think that you actually need to go to the hospital. So they get to the hospital and he gets checked out and it turns out that he has like an infection in his like rectum and he is gonna need to be like taken care of. So they're like, we're so glad you're here, you know, like you can kind of like take care of him. You're a nursing student. And she's like, no, you don't understand. Like this is our first date. I will not be doing that. And they're like, well, he told us that he's like new to the city. He doesn't really know anybody and his parents live out of state. So she takes this man home with her. She calls his parents and they're like, yeah, like we'll be able to get there, but we can't get there till Monday. This was Friday. No. So she takes him home.
No, you can stay right there in the hospital room and get the professional help that's needed. Absolutely not.
And she nurses him for the entire weekend. He can't get around. He can't like clean himself. So they haven't even gone on a date yet. And she is like washing him, showering him, digging into his situation. When his parents finally do show up on Monday, she has to take the mom into the bathroom and show her how to clean him properly. Can you imagine? Like, can you imagine on a first date? A first date that turns into a whole weekend of you having to take care of this complete stranger. Get real intimate.
I don't have to do that, and I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. I would get him help, bring him to the hospital, and that's my help.
That sounds like a you problem.
Tinder date from Little Hell Storytime. He literally sent me abusive messages calling me crazy, saying that I used him, and that I was basically nuts for no reason. So I'm 18 on Tinder. Matched with a guy, we're getting along pretty well. He lives really close, so I'm like, why not? Let's catch up. First date was like average, nothing that weird. Although he kept winking at me, being like, haha. And I'd be like, what? And he did it like 5 times. And I was like, hey, can you stop winking at me? I don't know why, like it just makes me feel uncomfortable. And then he's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, all right, whatever.
I don't know if I've ever actually like winked at someone before. I'm not very good at making small winks. Like how do you wink without your mouth moving? You gotta be like, or else it looks weird.
Also, important part of the story, he told me that he was a virgin on our first date. And I said I didn't care, obviously, because why would I care? Anyway, second date, this is where it gets bad. We go bowling. A girl that I know, we're not really friends, we're more like mutual friends. She sees me at bowling and she's like, oh my god, hey, like I'm here with my boyfriend, I'll introduce you to him. She brings over her boyfriend and I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. Whatever. So the guy that I'm going on a date with, let's call him Bob. So Bob and I are walking out of bowling. And he's not speaking to me. And I'm like, Bob, what's wrong? And he's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Kept saying, don't worry about it. And I was like, just tell me. And he was like, well, you could have like introduced me. I've known you for 2 days. I'm not introducing you. to my friends or someone that is not even my friend. Honestly, if he said it in a nicer way, I would have just said sorry, but... Anyway, so we're driving home and he's like, Annalise, I have to tell you something. I've lied to you. And I'm like, what have you already lied to me about? I've known you for 2 days. So he pulls over the car dramatically and he's like, obviously I'm not a virgin. And I was like,
okay.
What? He's like, yeah, I'm so embarrassed. Like I went clubbing and I lost my virginity to this like 30-year-old. I'm so embarrassed, so embarrassed. So I was like, okay, that's kind of...
You didn't need to tell me that.
But anyway,
Like, that's your
so he's driving me
information.
home.
Could have just kept it to yourself.
But people he used to be friends with. So he's like, oh my god, I can't believe they didn't invite me. So he parks in front of them and is just spying on them, staring at them whilst I'm in the car. So I'm just sitting in the car like, what is happening right now? Whilst we're in the car, I just wanted to make it very clear with him, like, hey, just letting you know, I'm not interested. I just got out of a relationship. I just got cheated on. You know, just not looking for anything at the moment. So I thought it was very clear that I didn't want to speak to him again. Anyway, drives me home and he's like, I need to ask you something. And I'm like, what do you need to ask me? He's like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. I'm like, just tell me, like, just tell me. I hate beating around the bush. And he was like, when would you be ready to like do stuff with me? What? So I was like, I don't know, like maybe tomorrow, maybe never. I meant never. I get home, I'm barely messaging him because I'm weirded out, confused. He's just kind of rude and odd. I'm still replying here and there just to be nice. Eventually he sends me a paragraph, like this bloody big, saying that every time he goes on dates with girls, he gets used, that he's such a nice guy, he doesn't know why this happens to him, that I've used him for nights out. Also, I'm pretty sure I paid for the second date, so it was like 50-50 paying for dates. So I didn't use him for anything. And he said that I used him for nights out. And I was like, why would I use you for nights out when I can have nights out with my friends?
This is too much.
And then he was like, why would you even go on a date with me if you don't want a relationship? And I was like, look, I didn't know what I was looking for. I just wanted to go on a date, meet a new person. It made me realize, you know, like I'm still in love with my ex, okay? I'm still in love with him. We'd only been broken up for like 3 months. So like kind of valid. And then he was like, you're crazy. Like, I can't believe you've said that. Like what you're saying is nuts. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I just said in the nicest way possible, hey, I'm not interested. Best of luck. I still have feelings for my ex. Sorry. He proceeds for the next... This was in 2019. He proceeds for the next 3 years to message me. Like, every 6 months, he would message me like, hey, how are you? Or, like, message me on Instagram and be like, oh my god, hi. And then he would delete the message when I wouldn't reply. Like, sir, it makes sense why this happens to you when you lie about random stuff on first dates. Say that I'm using you for dates when I paid for half the dates. Like, what?
I would have blocked him. I truly would have blocked him. Like, especially for 3 years after that, you keep messaging me, hey, we don't, be on your way.
So I went on a date with a guy that I met on an online site. And I should have known better because he told me he owned a restaurant local in my town before we met. But I know the owners of that restaurant. And I know that they've owned it for like 15 years. So he told me he's owned it forever and then lost it 5 years ago in the divorce. And none of that jives with the information that I know. So I don't know why I thought that would
That's weird.
Be a flex for him. But anyways, we go on the date and then he tells me that, and I tell him that I know the owners and he just ignores me. And then he tells me that he's ex-RCMP and that he tells people about the restaurant thing because RCMP have a bad rep. So he just lies about something that is super find-outable. So anyways, I don't like the idea of starting off a date with the lie. So I left early and he was really weird about it. And then I came home and had 3 threatening messages on the dating app. So I definitely dodged a bullet there. Why would somebody lie about something so silly and so obvious?
Yeah, that gives me like red flags in a more serious way. Like that's wild behavior. However, if someone lied to you, say you guys start talking on dating app and someone lied like that and you caught them in the lie before going on the date, are you still going on the date? I'm just saying, you still went on the date. knowing that he lied. Would you guys give like a stranger the benefit of the doubt? Maybe I just would not. Grab your beverage of choice. We're hopping on hydration station. It's plain old water in my cup today. Cheers. This is very important.
I just had the worst first date of my life. I figure I'm just gonna tell you what happened and then we're gonna try and work our way back.
Tell us, girl.
My date invited myself along with 2 other women so that he could speed up the process of finding his perfect 3-way. I met this guy on a dating app and I feel like by all reasonable measures, he was pretty much just your average guy. Literally nothing in his profile could have prepared me for what was to come. We agreed to meet at this Italian restaurant that's about 15 minutes away from my house. So I show up in my Uber and I'm probably like 10 minutes early because I just usually show up early to things. I don't know. When I get there, he's standing outside the restaurant and I recognize him from his profile. So at least he's not a catfish. You know, we say hi to each other and then he's just like, okay, let's go inside and grab our table. He made a reservation, so the table was ready right when we got there. So at least that was nice. They bring us to our table and they seat us at this.
I love that we're giving credit to, well, at least he didn't catfish me. At least he made a reservation. At least.
4 top, which honestly isn't that weird if you think about it. We're really only sitting there for like maybe 2 minutes before this girl walks up, who I think at the time is just a waitress. But no.
Oh my God.
No. And you already know what's coming. She kind of just looks at me funny and then introduces herself just casually. And I'm like, oh, hi, like I'm Megan. And as she's sitting down, the next girl walks up. So all the girls are just introducing each other. And I'm like, what the is going on? He's just sitting there like completely fine. And then she goes, oh, so like, how do you know so-and-so? As in the guy. I'm just not going to say his name because honestly, you know what? I should say his name. Matthew. It was Matthew.
Matthew! Not my Matthew.
And I'm like, oh, I actually don't really. This is our first date. So naturally, my next question is, oh, well, how do you know Matthew? He looks me dead in the eyes and goes, I thought this was our first date. Yeah. I just thought that these other 2 girls were friends that he knew that were around. Maybe he invited. I don't know. People are weird. But no, he'd scheduled this date at the same time with all 3 of us to meet at this place. And why, you might ask? Well, you're probably not asking because I already told you he was trying to speed up his process of finding the perfect 3-way.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way though that this guy actually thought you guys will all sit there and be like, oh, okay. Wow, this is so great. Now you're left with 0 out of the 3.
I went on a date last night and...
Oh my God, this girl's in my other videos. Girl, you go on a lot of dates that are apparently not very good.
The guy said something so offensive that I got up and walked out in the middle of the date. I've actually never done that before. Like, I've never just fully stood up and left and said, leave me alone in the middle of a date. But there's a first time for everything. I still can't fully believe that this happened. So we went to go get drinks and appetizers. And this all happened at like minute 24. So we had drinks but no food. We'd like just started talking. I knew pretty early on in the date that I wasn't that into him, but I still try to keep an open mind if I go on a date and like within the first 10 minutes I'm like, this is probably not someone I would date. Because you never know. Sometimes people are just nervous and they take a second to open up. But generally speaking, I just was not feeling it. But we're just making conversation and we start talking about like what we like to do on the weekends. And he's like, oh, I like to go to church. And he says, you're Jewish, right? Because on my profile where we matched, it said that I'm Jewish because I am. But he said it really loudly and we were in public. He was like, oh, you're Jewish, right? And just generally with the culture of how things are right now, I don't tend to like scream that I'm Jewish in public places because people are insane. So I kind of made a joke and was like, I am, but I don't tend to like scream it in public places. Very lighthearted, just kind of poking fun at the fact that he had like said it quite loudly. He proceeded to spew the most anti-Semitic, offensive bullshit I've ever heard in my life. Like in this monologue, the phrase, I would be embarrassed to be a Jew came out of his mouth. So I don't really know where he got the audacity or why he went out with me if he hates Jewish people because he literally knew that I was Jewish, or if he just wanted an opportunity to say a bunch of anti-Semitic bullshit to a Jewish person. Not really sure what he was getting at there, but I got up and left because I have zero tolerance for that. So that was a first. As I was walking away, he was like, let me know if you want to play pickleball sometime. I was like, what part of me like literally leaving this date 27 minutes in makes you think that I want to play pickleball with you? Like actually go yourself. So yeah, I don't even know what to say. Normally my stories have some kind of lesson at the end where I'm like, but then I learned, but I'm like just really angry about this one. So yeah.
Well, I just learned that if I ever become single, I will not be dating. Literally. I don't think you could pay me to get on these apps. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. I'll see you tomorrow.